SJ here, Clinical Director of the Rehab Hub, and welcome. So we're going to talk about Verruca. And this, we are introducing our latest, our newest piece of technology into the clinic, and this is for those pesky verrucas. So if you're struggling with pain, if you're embarrassed maybe about your verrucas, and maybe you've tried everything, maybe you've bazookaed that verruca until the cows come home and it's still there, possibly even spreading. The number of people that I get in, especially young people who are just so embarrassed about their verrucas. Maybe it's their relationship that they're in. Maybe it's that it's a young kid where they're not even allowed to. They've got to wear the verruca socks and maybe don't want to go swimming. Self-consciousness. And some people, maybe they're finding that it's sore, that's actually starting to hurt. So please don't put up with it. There are solutions, and this is where we've brought in Swift. Now, we have a fantastic success rate with verrucas. To date, every single verruca that we've had in, we've managed to get gone. Now, that is because we are utilising the best research that is out there just now, that is available for this. We are always in talks and looking out and bringing the most innovative ways that we can get rid of these pesky verrucas for you, our patients. We brought Swift into our clinic to join our options for verruca, and this is going to be our first line option. We do have a surgical procedure for verrucas as well, which sometimes we have to go to for very, very stubborn verrucas. But most of the time, our conservative treatment is enough. And I would say that for just about 95% of the patients that we see in here, the majority of them, first line is all they need. They very, very rare that they need to go to a surgical procedure. And even if you have failed in the past, I promise you, you have not tried everything. So what we do in here is that you come in and because we are just launching this latest treatment to the clinic, we are offering a free consultation. So if you've got a verruca and you're just demented with it, you don't know what to do, you don't know what the right treatment is, and maybe you've tried some other stuff before, maybe you've been to other podiatrists and you've failed with it, please don't let that stop you. Please reach out to us. We want to give you a free consultation. And I promise we will always be open and honest and transparent. And if we can help you, we'll always say we can. And if we can't, we'll always be very honest with you, and we will not treat you if we don't think that we can help you. Now, we've gone for Swift because a few different reasons. Now, prior to using Swift, our conservative treatments, our non-surgical procedure, was utilising a solution that we put on that essentially mummifies the verruca. Now, we've moved away from this for a few different reasons. The main one was what we found was happening was there's not a lot, but that you had to go home and do stuff every single day, twice a day. And if you didn't do what we asked you to do, then your results would basically are going to go down. And what would happen is you then have to come and see us more often and therefore spend more money on this treatment. And in some cases, we were seeing people 6, 7, 8 times to try and get this verruca resolved. And actually, in one case, I'm sure it was about 16 appointments before we got them resolved. Now, that's a lot of investment in certainly your time, but also financially. So that was a kind of the finance behind that conservative treatment. It was getting to be, we'd eventually get there, but the journey to there was quite costly for the client, and also meant they were coming either weekly or fortnightly to us. That's a big financial burden and a big burden on your time. Swift, however, what happens with Swift, this will be our conservative treatment, and we're taken away from the mummification solution. What happens here is you'll need 3 appointments, and that is 80% of the clients, or the research that's been done with Swift, 80% of verruca are cleared up in 3 appointments. I know that sounds, you might be like, aye, right. But this is where the evidence is. Now, what this is doing is it's microwave technology. So essentially, we are damaging the tissue through basically putting this microwave into that tissue and allowing your immune system to then come and deal with the virus. The verruca is a human papillomavirus. So your immune system will then come and basically deal with that virus. Now, what happens, 3 appointments, you come, and the actual treatment, we apply this to your verruca, and there's a little tip that goes on the end. They're all single use, so there's certain little tips that go into this, and they then are disposed of afterwards. We don't use that again in anybody else. And then from there, what happens is the actual applicator is only on your skin for 2 seconds. It's really, really quick. Now, it is hot. There's no smell. There's no burn. There's no smoking coming off you. You'll just feel it hot, and then that's it. And then we do that usually between 3 and 5 times during that appointment. If you've got satellite verrucas, we will treat all of them as well, and we'll do that in all of those areas, as much as basically you'll tolerate. You'll usually have, if you've got quite a lot of them, some patients that we see with verruca, they've just got, their foot's just covered in them, but there's usually almost like a mothership of them where it's kind of started and then it's kind of gone out and spread, and they do spread. They're absolute nightmare for spreading. So we will go for all those, the big mothership and all the little satellites around. You then see us a month later, and it's a little package. So essentially you see us initial appointment. So you would come in for a free consultation. We would tell you your best options, whether it would work for you or not. From there, if you want to proceed, we could see you on that day if you wanted to proceed, or we could book you in for your course of treatment. It would be a course of 3, and it's a package that you would book. Essentially, we would see you first appointment, we'd see you a month later, then a month later after that. So that would be 3 applications you would have. You will usually start to see significant results after the second treatment. The way that the tissue changes and the way that the immune system starts working into it is just quite astounding. You just really see it all shrinking down and coming in. And then usually by the time we get into the third one, we're really just putting the final nail in the coffin and letting it go. Now, after your third treatment, we see you back, and that's part of your package as well, 12 weeks later. So there's no additional cost for that. So you come back in 12 weeks later and we assess how it's all going. If it's not fully resolved at that point, we give you another dose of this in at that point, and that's all part of that package. So that would essentially be 4 treatments with this if it's required. Very unusual for you to need that, but it would hopefully just gives you some peace of mind that we will zap it again if we need to. Now, usually by that point, it's very unusual that they wouldn't have cleared. Now, usually at that point, we won't see you back after that. But if we were putting more another dose in, we would see you back again in 3 months' time again. There'd be no charge for that. Now, if it hadn't healed or hadn't resolved at 3 months, now, I've not heard of anything that's not had that. We would deal with it then, but we can then discuss whether we'd need to go into surgical options and things. But so far, I don't know any clinic that does Swift where that's been the case. So let's just not go there. But essentially, it is a very easy procedure. There is nothing that you need to do between appointments, like nothing. Like you don't need to spray anything on, you don't need to be rubbing it down, you don't need to be covering it up, you don't need to do anything with it, just leave it alone. There's no blood, there's no ghoul, there's no yucky stuff, there's no local anaesthetic needed. You don't need, it's super easy. You could literally just come in on your lunch break from work and you're zapped in no time. It really isn't eventful. It's hot when we're doing it at the time. It's 2 seconds, right? So you'll feel it, that's hot, and then it's away. Now, there's no pain afterwards, after it. It's not like it's like, oh, it's really, really sore. It's very, very unusual for anybody to feel any sort of pain afterwards. Again, that's not something that I've had fed back in. So what we are doing for now, for the first month that we've launched this, is we are offering free consultations. So if you have got problems with a verruca, if you're struggling with your verruca, if you're really demented, then please do get in touch. No matter if you've failed a treatment before, I promise you, we will thoroughly assess you and we will give you the best advice, even if that means that we say to you, we'll always be really honest with you, even if that means this might not be right for you. We will always give you a true answer. We will not sell you something that's not going to work for you. We'll always give you all the information so you can make an informed choice in what's best for you. And that might just mean that we send you away and we just give you advice, and there'll be no charge for that. It might be like, actually, this won't work for you, or this isn't right for you. And there's certain conditions in certain people where this wouldn't work, primarily things like if you had peripheral neuropathy and diabetes, we really need to be thinking about if this is best for you. There's maybe like pregnancy. We would not be doing this to somebody who's pregnant, right? Just leave it alone until you've had the baby. Anything that's really just making your immune system do something while you're pregnant, let's not go there. So there's a few wee conditions where we would leave it. Now, we can do this in children as well. We usually, for children, would reduce the settings down just so that it's not too uncomfortable for them, because it is hot. And that might be like, oh, but the great thing with this is that there's no blood, there's no ghoul. A lot of some of the procedures, you might need a local anaesthetic, and that can be really, really scary, especially for young ones. So with this, it's literally on and off in 2 seconds, and we do that. Usually for kids, we'll try and get 3 in if they'll let us. And ideally 5, but we'll do 3 is a kind of that's a kind of good number. But usually we'll try and push it to 5, especially for adults. But we just see where that patient can tolerate it, because it is hot when it's on the tissue. You'll feel it hot, so it's like, oh, it's hot, and then it's gone. By the time you felt it, it's coming off. But we'll always be open and honest with you here. You will find that that can just be a little bit like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, or that just feels a wee bit hot. So that is Swift. It is now in the Rehab Hub in Glasgow. If you are struggling with your verruca, please don't hesitate to book a free consultation, and we will get you the best advice and help you as best we can.